Give me a light to light my way. Truth is the light, so wise men say. Give me a light to light my way. Truth is the light, so wise men say. Give me a light to light my way. Truth is the light, so wise men say. Give me a light to light my way. Truth is the light, so wise men say. 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 Truth is the light, so wise men say.
Our readings are taken from the book Rays of the One Light, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. This is week 3. Is God present even there where there is ignorance? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The Gospel of St. John, chapter 1, makes a reference to the divine light that is obscured to the rational faculty, but that enlightens our higher nature. The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Reason recoils from this statement with innumerable questions. What is this darkness? Is it conscious that it should comprehend anything? What sort of light would be capable of shining in darkness without transforming at least that part of the darkness in which it shines into light? Does this light shine only at night? And if so, why only then? The solution is that to divine sight, even daylight seems darkness. The sun itself, like the moon, which shines only by reflected light from the sun, is but a kind of reflection of the cosmic light, which being immaterial is invisible to the eyes, but which is the great source of all material reality. In Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, he describes his youthful visit to Ram Gopal Mazumdar, the sleepless saint, who lived in the vision of that hidden light. Around midnight, Yogananda wrote, Ram Gopal fell into silence, and I lay down on my blankets. Closing my eyes, I saw flashes of lightning. The vast space within me was a chamber of molten light. I opened my eyes and observed the same dazzling radiance. The room became a part of the infinite vault, which I beheld with interior vision. Why don't you go to sleep? Sir, how can I sleep in the presence of lightning blazing whether my eyes are shut or open? You are blessed to have this experience. The spiritual radiations are not easily seen. The saint added a few words of affection. This is the light that shineth in darkness. It has been described variously in the great scriptures. In the Bhagavad Gita, the 11th chapter, the devotee Arjuna is given an experience of the infinite state and exclaims in awe, if there should rise suddenly within the skies sunburst of 1,000 suns flooding earth with beams undeemed of, then might be that Holy One's majesty and radiance dreamed of. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
And we have Pavani and Vajra here this morning too, and all of you. And it's a great morning. Thank you for coming. I have had fun the last few weeks watching a show you may be familiar with, Planet Earth 2, second part. Amazing photography and things that we can do now to capture images and to see things that, I'll never see here in Portland. There's hummingbirds. There are hundreds of different kinds of hummingbirds. It's something I didn't know before. There's a hummingbird that has a bill that's longer than its body, so that it can get into the longest stemmed blossoms and get the nectar that other hummingbirds can't reach. There are penguins that you think of that live in the ice and the snow. There are penguins that live on volcanic islands that are warm from the volcano. There are golden eagles that fly hundreds of miles a day that can see for miles. And then there's these little golden moles, they call them, that live underneath the ground, underneath the sand. And they're blind. And they scoot along underneath the sand at night, because that's the only safe time for them to come out. And they scoot around under the sand, making these little trails and stick their little heads out, and they eat bugs. And they're amazing. There's a place, I don't know where it is in the world, where pink flamingos land and what do I want to say? They rest at night in the water. It gets down below freezing every night, and the water freezes. So the flamingos in the morning, they can't move. They're frozen in the water. And they have to wait long enough for the sun to come up and the ice to melt in order to move. And they get up and they start walking around and walking on the ice in the water. And then as the sun continues to thaw the ice, their long, skinny legs break through the ice. And they do this every night. They showed these geckos that live in Brazil in the rainforest. And the camera zooms up on this tree that has all this lichen growing on it. And the camera gets really close, like you're right here looking at the tree. And suddenly, the lizard moves. You couldn't even see it before. And I'm watching this and thinking, that's amazing. Did the lizard become a tree? Or did the tree become a lizard? Because it just suddenly moves and scurries away, and they were like one. You couldn't see the difference at all. There are giraffes and ladybugs and, Himalayan mountains filled with snow and deserts of sand and cactus and, sea stars, and just, it goes on and on and on. And the whole point of this is it's all light. All of it. Master said that the reason why we have such a variety of living things on this planet is to teach us, is to show us the infinite ways that God can manifest. There's no end to it. And that's just on this planet. I'm sure it's quite exciting on other planets out there as well. That's just here. And light can do anything. It can look like anything. It can be everywhere. It's here sitting in this room. We're all part of that light. In the reading it said, the source, that light is the source of all material reality. This is another quote from Yogananda. So his dream thoughts took on luminous form. Soon all things manifested light and energy. Stars, angels, and lower astral beings, herbs, flowers, and bees, all shone as living lights in the limitless firmament of his dream. Endowed with motion, all things danced in his shimmering light. Behold, the Supreme Spirit had become God, the Father, protector of all creation. So this is the third week in the year, and in these first 3 readings of the year, we are given the picture of how we all came to be. That creation is in the act of becoming, and as soon as that stillness started to move, there was sound, the sound of Om, and light. And the darkness comprehended it not. That's duality. As soon as that movement started, there's the light that sees all, understands all, and there's the other side that is not comprehending that light. Sound and light here on the material plane affect our consciousness, because that it all came from consciousness. The darkness that doesn't comprehend, it's conscious. The light that comprehends and sees, it's also conscious. From Swami Kriyananda, sound and light affect our consciousness, for we, like them, are composed of vibrations. Music, therefore, is more than entertainment, and lighting more than something to see by. Sound and light actually affect our consciousness and help it, direct it toward spirituality, worldliness, or depravity. Be sensitive to the subtle effect of vibrations. Protect yourself from disruptive ones by listening to inspiring music or by singing, even mentally, songs that are uplifting. And by surrounding yourself with calm, soothing, or brightly cheerful lights and colors. That light is yet another way that we can uplift and change our consciousness and create that light that they described in the reading that is blazing like a million stars, a million suns. The fact that that light is conscious is really a wonderful thing to think about. It's not just a thing. It's not just something to read by, something to see. If you go through all of Master's readings, at one point I did, not all of them probably, but a good portion of them, and looked at how he described light, the words, the adjectives, and the descriptions of that word. And here's a short sampling of them. That light, channeling, receiving, sharing, expanding, bathing, immersing, surrounding, blessing, igniting, filling, awakening, purifying, permeating, living, protecting, clarifying, revealing, healing, transforming, flowing, embracing, enfolding, and mirroring. Those are all words that he used in his writings and his poetry to describe that light that comes from that eternal source. The fact that we don't comprehend all that, I get that. It's a lot to comprehend. It's a lot to absorb and to take in. But it doesn't matter that we don't comprehend it all. All we need to do is keep moving toward that light and keep inviting that light, like in that song. Wasn't that amazing what we did this morning? David was inspired. I asked for the song. He came up with this, inviting that light over and over again, inviting it and sharing it and using it to light our way. The idea of light all around us and color, which is all just different ways that light appears to us, is something that we can take into even the most mundane part of our lives. At one point, many years ago, I had an astrological reading. And it was at a time in my life that was very confusing. And there was nothing real dramatic going on. It just seemed like I just couldn't get clear. And of course, Drupada, who was the astrologer, he was looking at my chart and said, he told me why all the planets were doing different things. And yes, of course, you're all confused. And then he offered advice, and he said, one of the things you can do is wear diamonds to help clarify. Then he said, and if you can't do that, wear white. He said, wear more white, which seemed to be, so simple and so easy. I thought, I'll give it a try. It was amazing how it changed my consciousness. I just wore more white. It was just to be surrounded in light. To wear these robes in the morning, I love it because it just feels like light. We had a visitor one time who came to one of our services that had a lot of baggage from previous experiences in religion, and felt that the robes that ministers wear are a way of separating us from you. And it was just, no, that's not what we're doing here. These are to help remind all of us that this is what we are. We're all light. We have a festival of light together that we do. We celebrate this every week. We are that light. This is who we are. In my jumpings around the internet, when I was reading some about the light and all the amazing animals and everything, I came upon an article about photography. I am not a photographer. I won't even claim to be an amateur photographer. I can whip out my phone and click sometimes, but I read about two interesting things that just were very inspiring. One is a technique just called using only available light in your pictures. Because photographers, especially really good photographers, they learn to use all types of props and different types of lighting, big lights and little lights, but there is a type of photography that says don't use artificial light. Just rely on the light that is available to you and create beauty in that way. And there's wonderful pictures that you can create and that can be a result of using only available light. And then another technique is to paint with light, is to use in very, very dim light to then use a light of some kind. Oftentimes they use like a tube, like kind of like a lightsaber, a tube of light. And then that's the light source. And the person in the picture will move the light. And the secret is to have a very long exposure. So in your camera, instead of a real quick, open shut of the shutter, you have a longer exposure to take in all of that light. So as a result, the picture looks amazing because you get these silhouettes and you get these light beams that are moving across the picture. And both of these things I thought were very inspiring. In our spiritual lives, in our daily lives, how can we make use of the available light that's there? Any light that's available to us. Use it. Maximize it. Create something beautiful in every moment. And then also, when the light is really dim, when there doesn't seem to be much available light there, be patient. Open your heart and let it be a time of invitation and waiting for that light to come in. And then see what kind of beauty can be created that way as well. Because the light is always there. It never goes away. It can be very subtle. It can be hard to see. Our busy minds and our likes and dislikes and our fears and our attachments will block that light. But the light doesn't go anywhere. It's always there. in meditation, what we're really doing is practicing comprehension, is learning to comprehend that light. It's trying to go within, be still and silent, to find that light that's within us and to comprehend it. And with all of our efforts, every time we sit down to meditate, even if it doesn't seem like much happens at all, even if you don't see that light, you're tuning into that. And you get up and you walk away, and there's a little more comprehension of what that light is. In the Bible, you know, it says, "If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body is full of light." And Master tells us what they were talking about is here, single light. Taking the eyes of duality, the outward eyes are two, because it's a dual world. But when you go inside and you try to focus on the single light, you're trying to go beyond that duality. And then your whole body is full of light. Whether you see it or not, it's there. There was another very interesting, I don't know what it was called, a lecture, a presentation that I saw about bioluminescence. And that refers to the reality of a lot of animals, living creatures, creating light. And we all know fireflies, you know, that fly around. But there are, especially deep in the ocean, according to this presentation, deep in the ocean, most all of the creatures that live deep in the ocean, away from the outward light, have the ability to luminesce, to create their own light. The trouble is, of course, we don't usually see them. And we're only now just getting to the point where we have equipment that can go deep enough and down in there and can also, capture it on film and in video and in ways that we haven't been able to do before. Because if you take those creatures up out of the ocean, oftentimes they die or they're just no longer in an environment where they do that anymore. So this woman was showing this incredible footage of being down deep in the ocean, way beyond where the light can come through. And it's like a fireworks show, you know, of all of these creatures, big ones and little ones, down to little single-cell organisms that glow and flash and brilliant. They're showing these pictures of this little squid-like thing that you know, there's like little running lights all up and down and eyeballs that light up and then little dangly thingies that light up and it flashes and it stops and there was one that they showed where it was a long sort of snake-like thing and she could gently pinch it, not to hurt it, but just to gently, so if she sort of pinched it down here and touched the tail, the lights would go pew, 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 you know, up that way. Then she'd go, and then she'd pinch the other end of it, and it would go pew, pew, pew. And then she said, guess what happens if you pinch it in the middle? You pinch it in the middle, and they go pew, 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 like that. And they swim all around, and then they tried these experiments where they put an artificial light on the machine sitting there to attract, because they think, you know, they hypothesize a lot of this is about communication. And so they put an artificial light there that flashed and to see what would happen, and it attracted other things. And there was this little squid-like thing that came down and, like, you know, it has this big mouth thing that opens, and it sort of like touched it, and then it would like blink and light up, and then, you know, and then it would go away, and then it would come back at another angle and see what. And she said, I think they're talking to each other. I don't know what, you know, don't know what they're saying. And the light, and then you could see in the back, you know, beyond, other little creatures coming and blinking and lighting up and talking and sort of joining in the conversation. It's fascinating. It's not just beautiful. It's the thought I had was, it's amazing that even at that stage of evolution, as a single-celled organism, or as a strange little creature that we don't even have a name for, miles underneath the ocean, that they're already discovering that they have light inside of them. And they use that light to talk, to communicate, to be in touch with other creatures, to awaken within them that comprehension of that light. And then I was thinking about our opportunities here and now. I hear an awful lot of talk these days about darkness, about how difficult it is, how challenging it is in these times. But it's an opportunity that we have, just like those little creatures way down deep in the ocean that are nowhere near any light source. We can just create light. We can just be our own beings of light. No matter how much the darkness does not comprehend it, we have the opportunity to be that light to each other, for the world, for ourselves, for our own consciousness, to awaken in that light and to be more and more aware that that's what we really are. And that's what everyone, all of us, the pink flamingos, the golden mole, all of it, it's all light. And we can take that into our meditation, we can take that into our daily lives, we can take it into all of the activities we have. Surround yourself with light. Bathe in that light. Bring light into your consciousness. Wear more white, bright colors. Be that light in any way that you can, and then your comprehension will grow and get to the point where that's what you see all the time. From Whispers from Eternity, O divine friend, though the darkness of my ignorance be as old as the world, still make me realize that with the dawn of thy light, the darkness will vanish as though it had never been. Blessings.
These are excerpts from the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. That was a book that Yogananda said was deep mystical teachings, that Omar used poetry in terms of wine and song and attraction, but it symbolized the love for the divine through all these terms. So these are some deep teachings behind these words, if you can listen for them.
Awake for morning in the bowl of night has flung the stone that puts the stars to flight. And lo, the hunter of the east has caught the Sultan's turret in a noose of light. Up from earth's center through the seventh gate I rose, and on the throne of Saturn sate. And many knots unraveled by the road, but not the knot of human death and fate.
There was a door to which I found no key. There was a veil past which I could not see. Some little talk a while of me and thee there seemed, and then no more of thee and me. Ah, moon of my delight, who know'st no aim, the moon of heaven is rising once again. How oft hereafter rising shall she look through this same garden after me?